Hey everyone, welcome to episode 406, I believe. Let me check to be sure. No, 407. This is the detailed walkthrough of the Woomer colored pencils. It is not the first or second look because I have now colored with them 3 times. I have not shared much about them other than I did the unboxing, and when they came, they did arrive from the manufacturer because they were shipped to me for free to get my true and honest review, which I have done. And when they came, you can go refer to that video and see how they arrived. They came from China. They were double cardboard boxed and had a sleeve around them. However, because the tin itself was not sealed, there was enough movement that the tin popped open and all of the pencils had shifted to the right, which you can see in that video. So a few of the blues were damaged. In fact, here is one that I have not sharpened, so I could show you that this is how the most damage that we saw was that this tip and then some of the dust is on this blue. But other than that, the pencils did really well in shipping. So for me, I have already showed you guys videos of my storage. I have one storage slot left at the very end of my set of cases that are up tall over my coloring books. And this particular case is a 72 case. It is a slightly larger dimension than my typical 72 case, and it only has 3 zippers. This right here, if I go even taller, perhaps, so you can see them, this is the dimension of my typical 72 case, and it has 4 zippers. And I believe it's 10 pencils per row. I bought a smaller footprint because I only have room on the very end for the smaller size. So dimensionally this is larger and it has more pencils per, there's 13 pencils per page. 13 pencils per page versus 10. So this footprint I think is going to fit better, and it is the only pencil set that I have bought in this configuration, and so far I do really like it. I always store my pencils with a carabiner so that all of my zippers come on an open and closed at the same time. I have my label that says Woomer. I was so excited to get something after S's because there's a lot of letter A pencil sets and letter S pencil sets. So I can open and close the case easily. I have my color family order. Again, Jazzy Doodle Designs is who I got the color family order from. Let's take a quick look at the color family order of this set. And I have a couple of other sheets to compare to. Here is the Woomer color family set for using the Jazzy Doodle Designs, and it is a very nice balanced set. The only weakness that I can see with this is that I don't have, I have my olives here. I would like one darker. I can actually use juniper green as a crossover color, but it's quite blue. So it goes well with my leaf green, the bright green color tone. And it could actually be used as a darkest to go with the olive. I would like a darker than the Prussian blue. Ocean blue is almost not quite dark enough either. I feel like I'm missing indigo. And then I would love to have more than there's only 2 oranges. And this does not look very orange. So I would love one more orange in here would be nice. But other than that, I do like the browns. I like the amount of the cool grays. Here's the cool grays and the warm grays. Remember, it's a 72 set. Oh, and then here, I forgot to fill in the black. It did come with a black. The next thing I want to do is take a quick peek at, I have some measurements here. We've got 3 sets of pencils hanging around. I've got the Artisto. I have Arteza. And I have the Woomer. All three have about a 3.8 millimeter core. When I measured the ones specifically that I had with my calipers, I got for Arteza 3.77, and for Artisto, which is a hexagonal pencil, I got 3.85, and Woomer was also 3.85. So here's what the looks are of these pencils. The Woomer is a nice looking glossy pencil. All three have dipped ends. The Arteza, when I colored with it, because I just colored with these three yesterday, which you saw the Woomer go down first, and then the next day I did Arteza and the Artisto. And the Arteza felt slender to me, and sure enough, when I measured it, it is 7.08. The hexagonal pencils, like the Pablos, tend to be very svelte feeling, so I'm used to them feeling that way. And the barrel measured 6.91. And the Woomer is a nice heftier size, not quite as hefty as, say, a Polychromos, but it is a 7.5 millimeter diameter pencil. All right, I now want to talk a little bit about Woomer as a company, as well as then go into their packaging and the statements that they make about the colored pencils. So first off, I was curious about the company themselves, being that they appear to be very new, so I went to their website, which they shared the link with me. It is a Shopify website that does service multiple countries. And when I go to their About page, I was pleasantly surprised. They have a couple of different taglines. First off, at the bottom of their website, it says, Woomer Art, Paint What Lasts. And then on their About page, it says, Woomer Art Supplies, where passion meets purpose. Born from the frustration of artists who refused to settle, Woomer Art redefines creativity. Our founders, artists and stationery obsessives, craved tools that matched their ambition. Disappointed by lackluster supplies, they built something better. The name Woomer whispers our heart, a playful nod to the gentle trill of a contented kitten. Like a trusted companion, we lean in. Your voice shapes every sketchpad, pen, and palette. When you speak, we refine. When you create, we adapt. Quality isn't negotiable. We handpick materials that endure late-night inspiration bursts and precision drafts. Streamlined production meets relentless testing, because your vision deserves reliability. Artists, designers, students, and pros trust us to fuel their craft without compromise. But we're more than tools. We're your ally. Our support team? Real humans who geek out over paper grain and pigment blends. Got feedback? We're already listening. Need advice? We've got your back. Every order ships with care. Because your experience is the masterpiece we're here to perfect. Woomer Art, crafted by creators, fueled by connection. Let's make something unforgettable. So I really liked their About page and their way of defining themselves and how they set themselves apart. Their products on this website is colored pencils, watercolor paints, acrylic markers, and writing supplies. They call it Write Supplies. So there are some gel pens, the 72 set of colored pencils, and they do have watercolor paints, a travel size, and a 36 color size. Acrylic markers, 3 different sets, a 12, a 63, and a 72. All 3 are acrylic. And again, the gel pens, which is a small set, retractable 18 colors. So they also sent with their information, when they sent me the set, they also sent a Lightfast report, and it is actually called a gray scale test, which is a little bit different than a blue scale test. I'll let you guys look up the difference between the two. I am again conducting my own Lightfast test in Florida, direct sunlight, completely unfair, but it would be realistically how my art would be on a wall here. I've already shown you test results where the budget pencils, the two that I tested, were the most popular ones for me for my coloring group, which is the Color and Prang, and pretty much the pinks and anything with the pinkish tones in it faded to nothing. So the two other 72 sets that I colored with yesterday was the Arteza and the Artisto. The Arteza is at full MSRP, because right now they're not on sale, $42.99, and the Woomer full MSRP is $39.99. They both have Lightfast testing. The Arteza Lightfast rating scale is completely different, but it still has like a rating of 1 to 5, and they have their pencils. You can see charts of the 72 set and how many pencils are in the different categories. But in the category of, and I'll show you the categories before I show you. So here is the wrap that goes around the lovely orange tin. And let's just read what it says. Good light fastness, soft core, artist quality, saturated colors. If I flip it over, we have the color palette. We also have the color numbers, and we have the look of the pencil, though it is not the color, this side of the pencil that has the details. It's the generic side. On the other side, we've already, with the 3 different times I've used these, I have already complained about how difficult it is to read the number and the color name. It is still very, very difficult. We do have a skew, though the pencils aren't available as individuals, and there are no smaller sets. It is simply a 72 set. There is indeed, the scaling includes halves, and that the gray scale does allow for halves. I'm sorry if I chuckle. I'm watching a raccoon out my window trundle by. We just had this dumping rainstorm. It is now dark, and we have a floodlight that comes on, so I get to watch all the wildlife. We live, like I said, I have said many times now, across our backyard is a trail. On the other side of that trail, it's a sandy trail, is a fence, and on the other side of that is the St. John's watershed, so we have a lot of wildlife coming through. And every night I get armadillos, possums, and raccoons coming through. Sometimes I get deer. So anyhow, the Lightfast rating is 1 to 5, 5 being highly Lightfast, the most Lightfast. And so if I read, before we move on to that, I'm sorry, I kind of jumped ahead because of that raccoon. Easy to blend, 3.8 millimeter soft core, which I measured at a little bit fatter than 3.8. Break resistant lead, wide range of colors, and richly saturated pigments. And then inside is your provided swatch chart. It is a thick cardstock, though a little bit toothy and soft, and I found that the palette, as you can see, still did really well for such a soft, spongy feeling cardstock. And the important thing that we have is that if you look at these colors, and I can't get too close to the light, we have rating numbers 4, 3, 3-4 means really 3.5. And I saw 0 zeros, where if you look at the legend at the bottom, it basically says, let's make sure you can read it. No stars is not Lightfast. 1 star is less Lightfast. 2 stars, or 2 pluses, I guess they're pluses. Limited Lightfastness, 3.5 and 4.5. Doesn't really say, it just has them in parentheses, which is weird. So somewhere between Lightfast, good Lightfastness, and extremely Lightfast, which is 5 stars. So there were 0 5 stars, 0 1s and 2s, 5 3 star, 3 3.5 star, 42 4 stars, 22 4.5 stars. So I have these in the window at my mom's house. They will have full Florida sun all day. I'm not expecting, like this violet pink is a 3. There are only 5 3s floating around on this chart. Here's the light magenta, that's a 3. Light red violet is a 3. This cadmium lemon yellow is a 3. So we're going to be able to see them fade. But I was curious and I did a little more digging on the Arteza, and I found a few different people out there in the world. You can type colored pencil Lightfast testing Arteza, and this particular person pops up, and her results pretty much look like my Color and Prang results. And these are Lightfast rated pencils. So the Artisto I had already mentioned aren't Lightfast rated, so I'm not really thinking about them in regards to a claim to being Lightfast. So I think ultimately you have fugitive colors that if they have the type of pigment in them, they will fade. This is why when you have Luminance, which is a Lightfast rated, all of the pencils are Lightfast. Same with the Derwent Lightfast. You don't have these types of colors. You have very limited options in the purples to pinks and peaches, which are the colors that are the ones that fade. So I just did want to state that they put it out there. Woomer spent the money to actually do a test and produced the results, and that's under museum conditions. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, but I think if everybody understands that if you really want something on your wall for an extended period of time for either yourself or to sell, you really need to use Lightfast colors, and it may mean that you don't get to do the beautiful pink florals because those beautiful pinks, or you're going to have to make those pinks out of the Lightfast pencils, which run like $4 a piece. You might be able to get them in bulk for $3.40 a piece, but they're generally around $4 a piece. So that's all I want to say about the Lightfast testing, the packaging, and we're going to move on to the next segment. So I do want to now talk really quick about price. The Woomer has the retail that I told you is close to Arteza, which is $39.99. I have looked online, and Amazon has them on sale 20% off right now. They have a couple of other promotions where you can buy these and get a free item with them, like the acrylic markers. And the 20% off puts them right around 23 something a piece. And just for fun, I went ahead and tossed in the Artisto, which I feel when I use between the Arteza and the Artisto, the softness of these pencils is way closer to the Artisto. Very soft, very blendable, and a very fast pencil. So the Artisto has no claims to light fastness, but they are right now on sale for $24.74. And if you buy, they sell paper pads, sketch pads, and the like. If you buy a paper pad, they're not cheap though. They're in the like $12 to $16 range. You do get an extra 20% off the pencils. You can also do subscribe and save for, I believe the Artisto is a good discount, like 10% extra off if you do subscribe and save. And I'm not sure how you would use them up, but that's just something to consider. And like I said, right now, if I go to my cart, the Woomer is with the clip discount. My husband put a couple things in here. I put stuff in here all the time, and I hope he doesn't actually ever just run out and buy all this stuff. $23.92 for the 72 set of Woomer, which I feel is a very reasonable price for a pencil set that is very pigmented, very vivid. I also will put a link on this. There is another reviewer that I found that actually was sent these pencils, and she is actually an illustrator, and she does some fantastic human face. She does human faces a lot, and so I want to put her link for you guys to refer to the artistic properties of these pencils beyond just the coloring that I do, which is in the coloring books, which they are fantastic with. What she's claiming is that they are actually a really good, they do hold a point with varying pressure, and that she's able to get the textures that she likes from them, even though they are soft. So there's nothing stated in the paperwork whether these are oil or wax based, so they're probably some sort of a mix, and that's what she was saying. So that concludes the money aspect of it. I am a Woomer affiliate, so there is an affiliate link. You can just compare the prices with Amazon versus the Shopify link. I think Shopify is not the best price right now. It's at $29.99, marked down from $39.99. But no matter which of the two places, if you follow my links, that will be an affiliate link that will give me a very small commission, and it just helps fund me doing more coloring and purchasing supplies and reviews and such. So moving on to the next segment. So we've already gone through the colors. I want to share with you the sets that I colored with them. Here is the Spearer Farben 96 set and what its color family looks like. So what I find when I did the Artisto and the Arteza coloring, I found that each of the 372 sets had their weak moments, and so we will talk about that when I review the colorings of them all. But I did want to share somewhat my swatch sheets that I have prepared. Here is the first page of each. The leftmost one is Woomer, and then we have Arteza in the middle, and we have Artisto. And I thought that the colors on the 72s between the three sets were pretty equitable, though the Arteza, I believe, is a 120. And so it feels to me like some of the colors that they chose aren't necessarily the best that they could have chose. I missed some lights and some darks, though any 72 set I think is going to not be perfect. I did overall find the Woomer to be a really nicely laid out, as I already showed you, set. And the dark yellow chrome actually shows up quite a bit darker here on the Bristol vellum. So that was sheet 1 for all three sets. And here is sheet 2 for all three sets, with Woomer being on the left. And they look very similar. So similar. It is just crazy. So at this point I'm going to insert my test sheet. I did the test work already on my test sheet, and we'll go over how these pencils work. Hey everybody, I am popping in to do a segment here. I am not sure where this is going to fall into the Woomer deep dive, detailed walkthrough, but I wanted to spend a little time here and get this test page done. This is a test page that I do have a version of it uploaded for a free download. I have tweaked it a little bit over this season because I do use it with people who come to my coloring group meetings, and so it does always get tweaked. So I'm going to try to put a note for myself to go ahead and post this latest version. So the very first test I have people do, it is sort of a test for them to get to know the pencils, but also to find out if they prefer light layering versus heavy layering. And so we're going to see how well the Woomers do light layering versus heavy pressure layering. So I'm using WP281 Ocean Blue. I also have a Sunset, which is step 2, which is the blending color combo. We will test how easily these blend. I have already colored with them many times, so I am somewhat familiar with them, but this is my first time doing these tests on this test sheet. So for the layering, I kind of do little ovals, and I'm using very soft pressure. I could even move my hand back a little bit more so that I am back way far on the pencil. What typically happens on this particular test is I will start with too much pressure in the upper left corner, and then I will lighten up by the time I get to the right, and that is, of course, what is happening. So these are a very soft pencil. I will already have talked about them in general, though hopefully by the time I pop this into the review, I will not have gone through my coloring experiences in comparison to the other pencils that I did color with them in Small Victories. So I'm supposed to keep keeping track of layers, by the way, and I forgot to say that, so I'm going to say that that's about 2 layers. And I'm going to start somewhat focusing on the tooth a little bit as I go for this 3rd layer. My technique over time has changed a bit, I would have to say. It's about 3 layers. It's funny how when you color every single day, how different you find. I've moved my hand up now more. My patience with doing the true light layering has waned a little bit over time, though I still am a light layerer in general, and I don't tend to like to be in a hurry. But I also tend to like to be done with my light layers in like 4 layers if possible. These are a soft enough pencil that I think that it is realistic to say that I would like to be done in about 4 layers. So I would call these not the best at light layering. I can feel that the tip is getting flattened. So because the tip gets flattened, you see that we've got, that's number 4, that there's all this with the white speckling, which is the tooth of the paper. This is the Nina Bristol Vellum. And so because I've lost the tip, I can't, with that 4th layer, really get in there and just get all of these tooth elements filled in, because you can see that my tip has gotten pretty dull. Because they are, and flat, which means it can't just go into these little nooks and crannies very easily. So for a light layering, these are definitely not a light layering pencil. I'm getting some crumbs now because I am adding the pressure needed to really squish the pigment into the tooth. And I'm going to say 5 layers, pretty much done. Because I know these are soft, I've got my brush handy and I'm getting rid of the crumbs. The second box is so that I will do my heavy layer. I'm going to keep my hand right up, and I'm going to just basically smush right on into the tooth. I like to finish in no more than 2 layers. I already know that these are a very smooshable, as soft, if not even maybe softer than Prismacolor. Definitely very soft. Probably one of the few pencils that I don't even feel like I'm doing heavy pressure. And look at, that was truly 1 layer. And done. And look at how much tip is gone. Totally gone. So on my test sheet, my older versions also had these practice so that you could, if you were getting to know a pencil and or even getting to know your own coloring style because you're a new colorist, that's what these extra squares are for. I am going to go ahead and grab my Sunset colors. The colors are 35 cadmium yellow, 45 dark chrome yellow, 128 orange, 132 pale vermilion, and then 149 chili pepper. So I will write those in later because I want to continue marching along through this test. And because these are a smooshable, really smooshy pencil, I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm not even, like, my hand isn't like way down there. And this yellow just is super soft and fills in the tooth. So I'm going to soften. And that's all I need to do. And it is like fully filled in. I'm not probably even going to have to go back in. So now I'm going to be soft with my yellow orange, which is dark chrome yellow. Very soft here as I overlap with the yellow. And then increase the pressure toward the middle. I'm trying to divide this up in fifths. I used to have little tick marks, but the tick marks have just kind of faded away. I think it's not so important and that you be rigid about it, so I have removed those. So now I've got this yellow orange that in the very middle here is nice and solid, and then it fades away to the left and it fades away to the right. And I'm not going to go back and fix and perfect the yellow to orange yet. I'll do that at the very end. I am now moving on to orange, and again I'm going to start pretty soft where I see some tooth over here next to that yellow orange, and then toward the middle of this area I'm going to darken it up, get rid of that tooth, and then soften as I move over to the right. I have 5 colors total. I'm on my 3rd color, so I can extend over a little bit more. This should actually be in the middle, so it's not perfect, but I'm not expecting perfection. I have moved on now to pale vermilion. Going to be very soft here on the overlap with that orange, the dark orange. No, that was just orange. And then as I move across, I'm going to add more pressure. And then as I keep going, I soften it up. And then my final color is chili pepper. I've actually used this on the sheet already, so it is quite dull. And that is my red, and I'm just going to let it finish off early. Now I'm going to march back. You could either start over here at the yellow, soften that blend up. These are a very fast blending pencil. I have found them to be very, very creamy and easy to use. And voila, we are done. This is probably one of my fastest blending pencils I have ever bought and got to know. Color are the other super fast pencils that I have. So there is an absolutely fantastic blend. Simple, simple, easy peasy. So I will log these later, and we're going to move on to do some erasing. We're going to see, I've got 2, I should have gone ahead and filled these in for you. A blue and a red. They seem to be the most common colors. They are dominant. They're staining and smearing and all sorts of things, so I like to do blue and red. I used to do blue or red, and that's why I added the second square. I'm not going to be too picky about tooth here. I'm going to grab that chili pepper red right there, fill this in very quickly. And let's see how some erasing goes. I actually have these little notes here are, and it's blurry, sorry about that, are guides for people in class or for you if you download, and I think the older versions have that as well. So we have a regular old hard eraser, which I do have buried in this cup. I have a pink pearl, of all things. It says pink pearl, or did. and it is black and oval. So we'll just go across the middle, see how well these erase. There's a little smearing, and I can get most of it up, though there is some staining of the blue. And then here is how well the red erases. Both about the same. I have not found them to be, any pencils to be 100%. Here is a mono 0. We'll just take a little bit of the corner off. So it's good to know that we do have some staining. Just pulled it out the eraser. But you might have to clean up some edges. How well do the edges clean up? I have also handy my electric eraser. We'll see how well we can do some little dots. These are a waxy surface. I don't even know if it says that they're wax versus oil, but they do burnish to a high gloss very easily. Electric, mono 0, kneaded. So the kneaded eraser is a fun one. I'm going to go ahead and add a little more blue here because I erased most of both. I love the kneaded eraser for texturing. So I'm going to go get one. So here is a small chunk of kneaded eraser that you've probably seen. You can see other colors. You never have to throw this away. You can just knead away the colors because these get used all the time in class. And so you can shape it any way you want, and then you can go ahead and just pick up small sections to add stippling, add some texture. Maybe you're too dark of a color and you want to lighten it up. That's what the kneaded eraser is for, and these pencils erase fantastic. Our next test, oh, by the way, back up with the sunset. I left 2 areas for you to put your color numbers and do 2 blends. And then I've also then added a shape. It's a hibiscus flower, and you can go ahead and do 5 petals, 5 different ways, kind of practicing your layering to make the flower petals look realistic. So that's what that is for. Subtraction using a slice tool. So I own 2 slice tools. These are used for creating fur and different textures, and they are ceramic blades. So there's a little tiny one, and then I have a bigger one that has a nice rounded end, and this isn't supposed to come off. Sorry. There it is. That was what it looks like inside. And then I've used a little bit of kneaded eraser because my blade wiggled, and it's not supposed to wiggle. So there is my blade extended, and then you can like just have the little tip showing. What I've done here is there's the white pencil, and where did the white pencil go? Yeah, right here. It is kind of a creamy white, but it does call it white 001. And I have already added white. I did a tiny bit of blue, so I wanted to go ahead and add some blue over the top. I'm being very soft because these are a very soft pencil, and I don't want to mix the white and the blue to make like a light blue. I want to add a coating of blue over the top. And then I'm going to take the red and do this square. But I wanted you to see me actually apply the color and just have to trust that I had the white underneath. There are better and worse whites, so you need to get to know whether or not, if you want to do any fur using these pencils, and there is a white, if there is a white with this set, it'd be nice to know if the It's White does a good job or not, because there are better whites that you can put underneath, like a Prismacolor white or a Holbein white. Holbein has two whites. They have a special, very soft white. I'm going to take the blue. I'm going to use this very small, and I'm going to just do some little whiskers, little cat whiskers. And you can do real small flicks. And then for the red, I'll take the bigger slice tool. And you can see that the white, I am scraping away the red, leaving the white exposed. And I think that these are doing very nice. So you can refer to these tests as you use the pencils more. That's what these sheets are for. I keep a sheet for each of my sets that I get, though I haven't been consistent at doing these sheets like I should. So for 3B, using an indent tool, you can use any kind of a sharp tool. I have a couple here. I have a weeding tool for vinyl, and then I have a very pointy tweezer. You would just get to know what size of indent tool you want to use. I will use both of them. And you may or may not be able to see the indents, and then I will softly add color over the top, and this is another way to have white for fur or any kind of texture that you want. You can use a score tool, a ball tool, and those are my little lines. And then I've added this test, which was not there before. So that's new for this version, which is why I think I would like to put this version up and replace the other one. So this is the white, and it is very soft. I actually have not sharpened it yet, and I'm going to see how opaque it is over the black. And this is just black ink from my printer. And my printer is an inkjet, but a bottle. And I think that that's pretty fantastic. Very good white over dark. All right, so our next test is smudging. How well do these smudge? Everybody's going to be different with their pH balance on their fingers, and so this is how my fingers are with these particular pencils, and they definitely leave a residue on your finger. Let's now try the red. Red seems to be a big culprit when it comes to smudging. So these are pretty smudgy. And I now have the water test, and I have a water painter, aqua painter tool, and it is very dry, so I'm squeezing where it says push. I am squeezing water up into the bristles. Oh, there we go. And let's just see how much movement we get. We get a ton of movement. These are almost what I would call water soluble. Look at that. Another pencil set that I was quite surprised that is very water soluble are Holbeins. So this is why it's good to know. I am wiping off the blue. Now let's see. I suspect usually red is even a more water soluble. And yeah, very, very water. So if you're going to use a Posca pen or a jelly roll and you're going to apply wet and you're going to try to apply it over the top, you are going to be staining your pens. When they dry, they will turn pink over the red and blue over the blue. I do even have some. Here is a Posca. Let's see, which is this, a fat one? It's a pretty fat one. let's just add a dot or two and see. I'm going to add these. Usually I put them at the top. We'll just let that dry. We'll come back and refer to it and see if there's any staining. I don't have any jelly rolls out. I have an acrylic marker. These are Artiste Rose. Oh, and that's a big blob. Gonna have to remember that. I find that the acrylic doesn't tend to stain like Posca and Jelly Roll. I do have a Jelly Roll somewhere nearby, since we're being very thorough. It's right here. I even have a Linguo gel pen here. They're my latest favorite. Okay, so here is a Jelly Roll 8, which is a medium point. And a Linguo, which is a very fine point. And this is a very waxy surface for these. Oh, yeah, they're doing good. So we'll see if we get any staining on those. We'll check those at the end. Okay, so now I'm down to the bottom, and I've got some tools that I like to use for burnishing and blending. So this is not my favorite. These are very coarse. I made sure there was lots of tooth, and then there's some dark lines, very inconsistent. And so what happens when I try to move the pigment around to smooth out the square as best as I can with a blending stump? This is a paper stump, and I already cleaned that tip. This one was an old test, and I had cleaned off this tip. And I have not found these to work 100%. You can actually use like a Gamsol or Zest It or mineral spirits with the stump. I never use mineral spirits or Gamsol, though I do have it. And we're not going to test that today. Oh, and I just did all that without you watching, because I wasn't making sure. So here is what I do. I just do a very quick application and I leave a couple of lines, and then we take the stump and we look and see how well we can smooth it out. But you can also use this to get some interesting effects in your coloring. So that is what the dry blending stump looks like. The next tool is a blending pencil. I do have my Fulbright. It's called a blending pencil, but this is actually full blender. There is no wood. The others that I own have wood in them. And this one is it's a Caran d'Ache, and it is basically pigment without any color. Not pigment. It is the filler without any pigment. And I find that this works very well. And if you push too hard like I'm doing with a very soft pencil, you actually will start to pick up some of the color. So you can vary your handedness accordingly with your pressure depending on the pencils. These tend to be very soft, so they will pick up very easily onto the blender pencil. And then I do have 2 blending pens here with me. I have a water-based pen that is very, very old. Let's make sure it's clean, and it is. This is an old Stampin' Up! Blender pen. It has 2 tips, and I just grab one of the tips and I verify that it's clean. Since we already know that wet moves the pigment, I suspect you have to be very careful. It's not watercolor paper, so if you go too heavy, it will pill your paper. So, but it does move very nicely. And then here's the staining that you have to clean off. And this is a 6+-year-old blender pen. Then fairly recently, I bought Master's Touch. These were on sale. I think this is from Hobby Lobby. And it is also equally stained, but has been cleaned off. I provide the tools for people in the coloring group to be able to test, and these are all my test bits. So here's blending pen with alcohol. Again, it's a wet medium and it will probably break down nicely. I'm going to be very careful to try not to pill my paper. Most people doing this for the first time do tend to pill their paper. Comparing this water to the alcohol, the water did a much nicer job, because we already know that these are a water soluble. Clean that off. A water soluble pencil, even though they are not watercolor pencils. So then we have burnishing with heavy pressure. So I take my blue. This is the blue that I colored with. This is my preferred way of filling in the tooth, and that is just using the pencil itself. I already know that this is a heavy pressure pencil. That's how it will fill in the tooth the best, because it's very soft. Because we already did this above, and that's what that looks like. Then there is another alternative for burnishing. I will often, if I do a blend, I will come back with the lightest color of the blend and will burnish the color down into the tooth, which will make it a lighter color. In this case, I'm going to use the white, and I'm just going to do some ovals, heavy pressure, and I already know that these do a fantastic job with the lighter color, the lightest color of a blend. You can come in and get a nice filled in tooth. Really, really, really nice. So that is what we know now about these pencils. I now will take this and put it in my book with my other tests. I'm going to go ahead and move this up. We will take a look at our white. Now look at here. The Linguo stained the most. I find that the Posca did great, the acrylic marker did great, and even the Jelly Roll did not stain. So the Linguos, you have to be careful with these pencils if you do try to do your white gel pen accents. Oh, and you can see, look at how glossy they are. The Linguo are going to be very affected by the color underneath. So there you have it. So we're going to now step away. Look at, I've got white all over my finger from that blob. So moving on, that only took us a half an hour. We're going to move on to our next test. And that is my wonderful white. This is a very soft set of pencils. I have 28 whites at this point. I own 36 sets of pencils. There is one single white that I only own the one, and that's the Museum Aquarelle right here. And then I have 6 sets of pencils that didn't come with whites. They're like metallics, pastels, and neons. And so they didn't come with whites at all. So I'm going to go ahead and have you guys watch me add our Woomer white. So we already have our whitest whites are the Holbein Soft White. We have Derwent Drawing, which is a great white. Castle Arts Gold is a very impressive white. And then the Barrel 86 Prisma white. I even am pretty happy with the this is the Brute Funer flower boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and put my white for the Woomer right here, and we're going to just see how it goes. The lighting is a little funky, so I hope it shows up. It is crumbly. It is very soft. I found that they don't crumble so much if you're coloring normal, but if you're coloring heavy pressure like I was just doing there, they are pretty darn white. Not quite as white as the Holbein, not quite as white as the Barrel Prisma, but they are as white as the Artisto, the Derwent Drawing, whiter than the Castle Arts Gold. So I am very happy with this white. And I'm going to sharpen it. These sharpen, I've sharpened most of them, and they sharpen fantastic. I think I have now used up my space. So I will go ahead and do photography at the end of some of these different samples that I am sharing with you. And now, again, there will be a little break. And all right, small victories. I have done 3 different projects in this book using these because when I got them, I could not wait. So the very first project that I colored, let me move this back, was this house. Very, very vibrant. And the next set that I had to use, according to my sheet, of my rotation sheet, was the Maries, which I thought was a great comparison because the Maries actually look very similar to these pencils. They do have a smaller core, and I thought that comparing the two, even though I used different colors, I still am going to give the vibrancy and pigmentation edge to Woomer. I actually ended up with that was my first time using them. And in my notes, I talk about having tooth left, and to accommodate the tooth without having to just keep using the pencil, I actually did use a blender pencil. I believe I used the Fulbright blender pencil, and it did fantastic at bringing out the colors and pushing in the tooth and doing burnishing, which these are a very glossy, I don't know if I can get the you to see how glossy they are, but they are a very glossy finish. And the Maries, which is an oil pencil but is very vibrant, also ends up having a very glossy, shiny finish. So then I moved right on over. My final test, this ink tense just isn't part of my comparison. But I will say the ink tense is usually very vibrant when I use them, and they do not compare, at least to the level that I colored them with the wet. They are not as vibrant as either the Maries or the Woomer. So over on this side I colored again, and I used all the different color families, trying to get the full range of colors, and I compared them to Spearer Farben because they are a very vibrant pigmented pencil, and I thought that both were fantastic to use and very soft. And then another comparison I did at the very bottom here was the Castle Arts, which I felt that they were really crumbly. They tend to be very pigmented and bright, but I don't think that they ended up being quite as bright as the Spearer Farben and the Woomer. The Spearer Farben are definitely not as soft. Of all of the sets, I thought that the Woomer behaved very close to the Maries as far as softness. Though because the Maries is oil-based, I felt that the Maries retains their tip shape better. All of the, right now I have my Sunset colors, and you can see how soft the tips have gotten. The red I used quite a bit, as well as this blue, and both the red and the blue are quite worn down because they are a very soft pigment. The second, so that's 2 of the coloring projects that I've done. And then the third one I did very recently, I believe 2 days ago, I colored the Woomer flowers. And then I moved right on the next day, which was yesterday, I did the Arteza. And my notes for this page are that the Artezas were, there was a drag on this soft, this is a, no, soft, this is a very smooth paper. And typically pencils that are soft go really well, but for some reason the Arteza is a bit of a drag, and it was more difficult to get the pigment to fill in the tooth, so it took longer. And I was very impressed with that 72 set they gave me, my dark olive. It's called, I think it's called Moss, and I loved it. And the colors that I had to work with were not quite as blendable combos as I felt the Woomer and the Artisto did. I thought that the Woomer is a very fast, and they're a little bit soft, so beginners will have a little bit of a learning curve, but they are soft, they are very fast, and the blends that you get in the 72 set are fantastic. And the colors are very, very vivid. I thought that the Artisto, which is also a newer, though not as new as Woomer, and it does not, they don't have Lightfast ratings on them, though the Arteza has Lightfast ratings. So there's nothing about Lightfastness at all on the Artisto, so they don't claim to be that, and they're also slightly less expensive than the Woomers are. So there was no indigo and no dark olive, though I had a somewhat darker olive to work with on the leaves for the Woomer, and I thought that the Artistos were also soft and fast to use and had beautiful colors. The Woomers don't seem to have any mistakes at all on the labeling, and there's at least one actual out-and-out mistake with the Artisto, if that's something that, and maybe the new versions have been fixed. So that is the sum up of the Woomers, and I will be coming back with some of my own Lightfast testing results. And I felt that the testing that I did, that I would have slipped in that segment for you guys, did not surprise me. Everything that they did and behaved like was as expected, and I think that they are, they do move with water and they do smudge, but that is pretty typical of a soft pigmented pencil. If you have any questions about these pencils that I haven't answered today, please go ahead and drop a comment. Do all the YouTube things like share, comment, and consider subscribing. And I will be adding these to my rotation, absolutely, and will be continuing to report on their Lightfastness as the summer goes by. Again, these are at my mom's house in her sunniest window, and she gets sun all day. So it should be very interesting to see what we find. Thank you everyone for joining me today, and welcome back if you are returning. And we will then be resuming the daily color next, and I am on my last few pages of this book. I believe I have a mandala page, a narwhal page, I have the end, and a tiny house that I will do when I finish the end. So we're down to the last 3 pages. I hope you guys will all join me when we do the mandala page, which will probably be in the next day or 2. Everyone take care.